Welcome to another flip video lesson with Mr. Volkman. Today's lesson, we will go over the end of the Missouri Compromise. And I know that makes you so sad because I know you love the Missouri Compromise, the 36-30 line. But that's what lesson 21.4 is all about. Let's begin. We're going to first talk about the beginning and the end of the Missouri Compromise. And believe it or not, it was a religious movement known as the Second Great Awakening that really started strong feelings and got the ball going for the anti-slavery movement in the northern states. You see, the Second Great Awakening stressed the importance of ending sinful practices, of anything that separated man from God. Separation. It stressed the importance of people's responsibilities to uphold God's will in society. So whatever God wanted, that's what you needed to do, not just in the privacy of your own home, but in public and everywhere. And was there no bigger sinful event or an event that went against God's will than slavery? And as a result, the northern states were flooded with anti-slavery literature and petitions to Congress calling an end to slavery, or at the very least, having the federal government support getting rid of slavery. In 1837, 38 abolitionists sent more than 130,000 petitions to Congress. Now, I'm not a major math man, so I'd love one of you mathematicians watching this video to figure out about how many petitions were sent by at least one person. See if you can figure that out and let Mr. Volkman know. Now, you can probably figure out that the Southern congressmen did not like this, and these events made them even more adamant in defense of slavery because they felt attacked. Abolitionists thought a constitutional amendment was going to be needed to get rid of slavery. But at the very least, they reasoned that Congress should be able to outlaw slavery in Washington, D.C. because, well, Congress was in D.C., so they should have some power there. Now, what was the southern states' response to all these abolitionists' feelings? Well, Mr. Calhoun, who you may remember from our unit on Andrew Jackson, who is also responsible for the nullification crisis in South Carolina almost seceding, had this to say. And excuse me a moment while Calhoun takes the stage. The relation which now exists between the two races has existed for 2 centuries. It has grown with our growth and strengthened with our strength. It has entered into and modified all our institutions, civil and political. We will not, and cannot, permit it to be destroyed. So as you can see, Calhoun perfectly makes it clear that as America got stronger, so did slavery. And that to get rid of slavery would undoubtedly, probably destroy the country. So you can see why they didn't want to get rid of slavery. Now, in May 1836, something happened to really put a kibosh, to put an end to slavery. And that was when the House forbade all talk on slavery. This included petitions to slavery to potentially get rid of it. And of course, a certain South Carolina congressman gave this idea. Now, John Quincy Adams had quite the reply to this. And John Quincy Adams himself would talk about it, but as you can see, he actually left Congress after his speech because he was so upset. And he said this. He said, I hold this resolution to be a direct violation of the Constitution because Congress wasn't giving the people a chance to have a say in how their government was being run. Now, in 1844, Adams finally was able to get enough votes to repeal the gag rule. Or if you're an American, the gag rule. Now, to go back and to review what we've talked about so far, you had the Second Great Awakening, which stirred up feelings that people needed to follow God's will in all aspects of their life and to get rid of sinful practices. As a result, the abolitionist movement gained a lot of strength and sent many petitions to Congress, which angered and frustrated Southerners and Southern congressmen, to the point that they instituted the gag rule, which didn't allow any talk of abolishing slavery. Now, added to that were some fears of slave revolts. This, of course, had to do with Nat Turner's Rebellion, which occurred in 1831. After this rebellion, two things were talked about. First off, they talked about gradually getting rid of abolition, and they thought about that for maybe like 3 seconds. Then they decided they were going to tighten the slave codes. Now, the slave codes were a way to control slavery, and the goal of the slave codes, this is pretty important, the goal of the slave codes was to prevent slaves from meeting or communicating in large groups. 1 second there. There are 4 major parts to these slave codes. And I had planned to do this big vocal ensemble, and I had a piano player all lined up, but she backed out. So, I'm going to have to rap it for you. Could I have a beat, please, Mr. Mint? Okay, Mr. Volkman. Yo, it was illegal for slaves to preach without a white person present. Slaves can't gather without a white. Take it away, Mr. Mint. Whoa, woo! Slaves couldn't learn to read or write. Don't forget this. It was illegal to speak out against slavery. Word! I hope you're laughing with me right now and not at me. Yeah. Now, some new problems came up for the Missouri Compromise, and it all stemmed from a war with Mexico in which America ended up winning. Now, after they beat Mexico, and as the war was getting close to an end, there was a potential for some new territories to come into our nation. Now, this was a problem because Congress was already balanced with the number of states that we had in our country. It was balanced, see? Just like this. We had the same amount of slave and same amount of free states. Now, California, which would have been the new territory coming into our union, would tip that balance, either in favor of the slave states or in favor of the free states. And that wasn't good. So there were 2 potential solutions to this problem. And let me tell you, no one liked these solutions. Just like the Missouri Compromise, no one necessarily loved that compromise. It was, a necessary evil. The first solution was to extend the Missouri Compromise line all the way to the Pacific Ocean, which would have looked like this red line here. And if they would have done this and extended the 3630 line, all of this area would have been considered free states. All this area down here would have been considered slave states. Now you can see why maybe the Southerners wouldn't have liked this idea. All these states would not have gotten a choice, which is what the Southern states wanted. And you can see why the Northern states wouldn't have liked this, because these states are all going to have the opportunity to be slave states. Well, a second idea, and again, not a lot of people like this one either, would have been to ban slavery in any territory gained in the war against Mexico. Going back to my map, that would have been this whole chunk of territory. Slavery would have been banned. Now, of course, the southern states definitely would not have liked that, because this area right here is south of the 3630 line, which, based on the Missouri Compromise, should have been considered slave. Now, the northern states loved it because it's free. So, of course, since the northern states controlled the House of Representatives, this bill passed the House. But it did not pass the Senate because, again, things are balanced, which means in the Senate, free states and southern states have the same amount of senators. So nothing's going to get passed. There's no majority. Now, something else that happened with the Wilmot Proviso is it made a huge rift, a huge gap, a bigger gap between those who liked slavery and those who didn't, because it just made things more angry. So the Wilmot Proviso actually kind of made things worse. Thank you for watching this flip video. Please make sure you check Edmodo to answer the questions, and I'll see you, more than likely, in class.